Welcome to our deep dive, and today, we're tackling something you might not expect. We're diving into the potential downsides of those everyday vitamins, the ones so many of us just, you know, pop without a second thought.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we tend to think of vitamins as purely beneficial.
Right, exactly.
But we often forget that, anything can become harmful in excess, right? Even natural substances can have pretty powerful effects.
Absolutely. And the story we're focusing on today really brings this home. It all centers around Mary Buchanan, this fit 76-year-old woman who had this really unexpected experience.
Oh, yeah. This case is fascinating because it shows how you can be taking the recommended dose of something and still end up with way too much of a specific vitamin.
And in Mary's case, it was vitamin B6. But let's rewind a bit. So Mary, she was active, healthy, living her life. And in 2021, she started taking this magnesium supplement for leg cramps.
Yeah. Seems pretty standard, right?
Totally. And at first, it seemed to help. But then over time, she started experiencing these, kind of troubling symptoms. Like her legs felt weak, she had trouble walking, even climbing stairs became a challenge.
And this is the thing. She wasn't megadosing or anything. She was following the directions on the label.
Exactly. And yet, over 2 years, these symptoms, they just kept getting worse. It got so bad that she eventually ended up being diagnosed with peripheral neuropathy.
Which, for those who might not be familiar, peripheral neuropathy is essentially nerve damage. And it often affects the extremities like, hands and feet.
That can be really debilitating.
Oh, absolutely. It can cause weakness, numbness, tingling, even pain. And what's crazy is that in Mary's case, the root cause of all this was excessive vitamin B6. Like tests show she had 7 times the normal level in her blood.
And that was just from the magnesium supplement she was taking?
Yep, the B6 was an added ingredient.
Yeah.
And it just built up over time and, it resulted in nerve damage.
Wow. So it's a real reminder that we need to be, more aware of everything we're putting into our bodies.
For sure. Even things that are marketed as healthy.
So let's talk about vitamin B6 itself for a moment. What is it and why is it even in these supplements?
Well, vitamin B6, it's actually super important for a bunch of bodily functions, especially brain health, the formation of red blood cells, and how we metabolize protein.
Okay, so it's not like it's a bad thing in and of itself.
No, not at all. You can get it naturally from tons of foods like poultry, fish, bananas, even potatoes.
But here's the catch, and I think this is where it gets really interesting. The recommended daily intake for B6 is actually really low.
Yeah, like only 1.5 to 1.7 milligrams. It's tiny.
And most Australians are already getting enough B6 from their diet.
Yeah, true deficiency is actually pretty rare.
So why are so many supplements loaded with it then?
Well, that's where things get a little, complicated.
Yeah.
You have to remember that the supplement industry is massive. We're talking billions of dollars. And a lot of it is driven by, marketing and profit, not always just pure science.
I see. So it's not necessarily about what we need, but about what they can sell us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a key point to keep in mind as we go deeper into this.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and talk about the bigger picture. This Australian news report we're looking at, it actually reveals just how big this market is.
Oh, yeah. It's huge. We're talking about a $6 billion market in Australia alone.
And a lot of that is fueled by, social media influencers and those promises of a healthier, better you.
Which isn't inherently bad, of course.
No, but it's definitely something to be aware of.
Right. And the other thing to remember is that this industry, it's not as regulated as you might think. I mean, there are bodies like the Therapeutic Goods Administration, the TGA here in Australia.
Yeah, the TGA.
But they primarily focus on whether a product is safe to consume, not necessarily whether it actually works.
So you could be buying something that's, harmless, but also completely useless.
Basically. And that's an important distinction to make.
It is, and it's something we'll definitely come back to. Now, this news report, it actually features a few different perspectives on all of this.
Oh, that's great. It's always good to hear different sides.
Yeah. So we have input from medical professionals, influencers, and even someone who kind of straddles both worlds, a performance coach who also happens to be the son of a pharmacist.
Sounds like an interesting mix.
It is. So let's start with the medical perspective. Dr. Michael Boning from the Australian Medical Association. His stance is pretty clear-cut. He says that most people are already getting enough vitamins from their diet.
Which makes sense, given what we just talked about.
Right. And he argues that taking extra vitamins, it often provides no additional benefit.
Yeah, he even calls it expensive urine.
Meaning you just pee it all out?
Pretty much. Your body doesn't absorb it, you're not using it, so it's essentially a waste of money.
Okay. That's a pretty strong argument.
It is. And it's backed by research, too. Our bodies are pretty good at extracting what they need from the food we eat.
So unless you have a specific deficiency, you're probably not gaining anything from supplements.
Right. Then we have Lucas Owen, the performance coach. He's the one who also uses and recommends supplements.
And he actually makes the case that supplements can lead to improvements in blood test results and overall well-being.
So a different perspective.
Definitely. And he's upfront about the fact that many products are, ineffective or misleading.
Yeah, that's refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
He points out that some don't even contain what they say they do.
Or the dosages are way off.
Exactly. He also admits that some of the positive results people experience could be from the placebo effect.
Interesting. So you might feel better simply because you believe you're taking something helpful, not because of the supplement itself.
Precisely. But, while his honesty is great, there's also that potential conflict of interest.
Because he benefits financially from recommending these products. And finally, we have Professor Tissa Wijeratne. He's a senior neurologist.
Okay, a neurologist.
And he offers a bit of a, I guess you could say, reality check.
Oh.
He says he sees cases of B6 poisoning all the time, similar to Mary Buchanan's.
Oh.
And he really stresses that we need more awareness about this, like among doctors, neurologists, and the public.
That's concerning. If doctors aren't fully informed, how can they properly advise their patients?
It's a really good point. And this is where the TGA comes back into the picture. They've actually received numerous reports of B6-related issues, including Mary's case.
Really?
Yeah, so they've started requiring warning labels on high-dose products, and they're even considering putting them behind the counter, like certain medications.
Okay, so they are taking action.
They are. But as Mary's experience shows, it's not just about regulations, it's about knowledge.
Right. If people aren't aware of the risks, those regulations might not be enough.
Exactly. So with all of that in mind, what should our listeners take away from this, from this first part of our deep dive?
I think the biggest takeaway is that you have to be an informed decision maker. Don't just blindly follow influencers or, fancy marketing campaigns.
Do your research.
Yeah, talk to your doctor.
Really critically evaluate the information you're getting.
Because what works for one person might not work for you. And what's marketed as beneficial, well, could have unintended consequences.
It's really about understanding that supplements, they should complement a healthy lifestyle, not replace it.
Exactly. They're not a magic bullet.
They're not. And to be a bit more specific, the TGA now requires high-dose B6 products to carry a warning label that says, this medicine may be harmful if taken in large amounts or for a long time.
That's good. At least it's a start.
It is. And they're looking at potentially even stricter measures, like having these supplements be sold from behind the counter.
Wow, like you'd have to actually talk to a pharmacist to get them.
Exactly. It's all about encouraging people to consult with a healthcare professional.
Which makes sense.
It does. So, as we move on to the next part of our deep dive, think about this. If something as simple as a vitamin can have unintended consequences, what does that say about the whole world of supplements and the information we're bombarded with?
Yeah, that's a good question. It makes you wonder what else we might be overlooking.
Exactly. And we'll be back in just a moment to delve even deeper into this. We'll talk about the ethical considerations, the influence of social media, and what the future might hold for this whole industry.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive. And, as we continue this conversation, I think it's important to kind of shift gears a little bit and consider the ethics of it all.
Ethics.
Yeah, like how these products are marketed, especially with the whole social media influencer thing.
Oh, right. Because we see it everywhere now, don't we? These influencers with like millions of followers promoting all sorts of supplements.
And it's so easy to get swept up in it, right?
Totally. Especially when you're bombarded with these messages constantly, like you said, quick fixes and miracle cures.
And the problem is a lot of these influencers, they don't actually have any formal training in like nutrition or medicine.
That's a good point. I mean, how are we supposed to know who to trust?
Exactly. And it creates this blurry line, doesn't it, between genuine advice and, well, just marketing.
And that can be really dangerous, especially for people who are, maybe desperate for solutions to their health problems.
Absolutely. So it raises these big questions about responsibility. Like, do these influencers have an ethical obligation to, be transparent about their financial ties to these companies?
That's a tough one. And I guess it also brings up the question of regulation, right? Like, should there be stricter rules about health claims made online?
Definitely. These are really complex issues, and there aren't any easy answers.
It all feels a bit like the Wild West out there, like consumers are just left to fend for themselves, trying to sort through this mountain of conflicting information.
And then there's the psychology of it all, too, which is fascinating to me.
What do you mean?
Well, people are drawn to supplements often because, I don't know, they offer this sense of control.
Control over their health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, in a world that feels so uncertain, taking a pill can feel empowering.
Yeah, I can see that. Like you're actively doing something.
Right. Even if the benefits are minimal.
So it's more about the feeling than the actual, like, scientific evidence.
Sometimes, yeah. And this desire for control can be even stronger when we're talking about, chronic conditions or aging.
Because people are looking for ways to slow down aging or manage their symptoms, right?
Precisely. In supplement marketing, it really preys on these vulnerabilities.
It does. So instead of addressing the underlying issues, it kind of feeds into our fears and insecurities.
Exactly. And offers these unrealistic or potentially harmful solutions.
So what's the alternative then? Like, how do we navigate this whole thing in a smart way?
Well, I think it comes back to critical thinking. Like,
Yeah.
we need to be more discerning about the information we're consuming.
Right. Question the claims, look for actual scientific evidence.
Yeah, talk to your doctor.
Be proactive, right? Not just passive consumers.
Exactly. Now, looking ahead, I think we're going to see the supplement industry, kind of shift towards more evidence-based practices.
You think so?
I do. Consumers are becoming more savvy. They're demanding more transparency from these companies.
And the TGA is also stepping up its game, right? To try and ensure consumer safety.
Definitely. So we'll likely see stricter regulations, clearer labeling, maybe even a crackdown on, misleading marketing.
That'd be great. Less of the hype and more of the facts.
Right. Now, circling back to Mary Buchanan's case for a moment, it's a good reminder that, even things that seem harmless can have unexpected consequences.
Especially when we don't have all the information.
Yeah. And it highlights the need for personalized healthcare,
Wow.
where individual needs and sensitivities are considered.
Not just a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. And it emphasizes the importance of, good communication between patients and their doctors.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, patients should feel comfortable talking about their supplement use, and doctors need to be, knowledgeable about the potential risks and interactions.
Absolutely. It's a partnership, isn't it?
It is. And Mary's story also, it kind of exposes the limitations of our current understanding, doesn't it?
Of vitamins and supplements.
Yeah, like we've come a long way with nutritional science, but there's still so much we don't know.
That's true. Especially about how these substances interact with our bodies over the long term.
Right. So it's a reminder that good health, it's a journey.
It is. It's about learning, adapting, and approaching information with a healthy dose of skepticism.
You mentioned earlier the psychology of it all, like how our desire for control and anxieties about aging can really affect our choices.
Oh, yeah. It's fascinating. I think the desire for control, a lot of it comes from a fear of the unknown.
Like a fear of losing control as we get older.
Exactly. Or when we face health challenges. And, supplements, they kind of capitalize on that fear, don't they?
By promising, enhanced performance or youthful vitality or protection against disease.
Yeah. They offer this illusion of control in a world that often feels very unpredictable.
And we convince ourselves that, by taking these pills, we're somehow mitigating the risks.
Right, we're taking charge.
But as Mary's story shows, that can backfire.
It can. And that's why I think, true empowerment comes not from external solutions, but from within.
From a deeper understanding of ourselves and our bodies.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that connection with our bodies, with the natural world.
Listening to our bodies, respecting their limitations.
Making choices that nourish us in a sustainable way.
So not trying to conquer aging, but finding a way to age gracefully.
Exactly. And I think that's much more fulfilling than, relying on promises in a bottle.
I love that. As we move towards the last part of our deep dive, I keep thinking about that question you posed earlier. Like what other seemingly harmless things might we be overlooking in our lives?
It's a big question, isn't it? And it reminds us that genuine knowledge requires us to question, to think critically.
To challenge our assumptions.
Especially when it comes to our health.
Because, as we've seen today, even the most, seemingly harmless things can have consequences.
They can. And at the end of the day, the responsibility for our well-being, it lies with each of us.
We need to be informed. We need to be empowered.
And make choices that support our long-term health.
That's really what this deep dive is all about. It's about giving you the the tools and the knowledge to navigate this complex world.
A journey into the complexities of health and wellness.
Now, before we wrap up this part, I want you to take a moment and reflect. Think about. Welcome back to our deep dive into, well, the unexpected world of vitamins. We've covered a lot of ground already, from Mary Buchanan's experience with B6 toxicity to this whole massive supplement industry.
Yeah, and we even touched on how, our own psychology, our desire for control, plays a role in the choices we make.
Right. And as we wrap things up, there's one more angle I'd like to explore.
Okay.
And it's the media's role in all of this.
The media.
Yeah, like how they influence our perception of supplements. Because we're constantly bombarded with these headlines, praising some miracle supplement or warning about the dangers of another.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
It is. And it's hard to know what to believe.
I think the key is to remember that media coverage, it often sensationalizes things,
It's all about grabbing your attention.
Right, not necessarily about, providing balanced information.
So a study might show a small link between, I don't know, a certain vitamin and a health outcome, but the headlines scream, vitamin X cures everything.
Exactly. And that creates this distorted view of the science. It's so important to actually read beyond those headlines.
Go back to the original research.
Yeah, and understand that every study has its limitations.
Which brings us back to that idea of being a critical consumer of information.
Right.
We can't just, accept everything we read or hear.
Right. We have to ask those tough questions, like who funded the research, how many people were involved, were there any conflicts of interest?
Right. How does this new finding fit into everything else we know?
Exactly. It's about being skeptical, but not, completely dismissing legitimate science.
It's a balance.
It is.
Yeah.
And there's another media trend I've noticed.
What's that?
Well, they often portray health and wellness as this constant battle.
A battle.
Yeah, like against aging or disease or imperfection.
Like it's us versus them.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of narrative, it can be really disempowering,
Because it creates this sense of fear, this urgency.
And it pushes us towards those quick fixes we talked about earlier.
Right, those external solutions.
But it also overlooks the fact that our bodies, they're incredibly resilient. Like, they're constantly working to maintain balance, to heal themselves. So rather than seeing them as, the enemy, we can approach them with curiosity, with respect.
Like a collaboration.
Exactly. It's about understanding what our bodies need and supporting them through, lifestyle choices.
Things like sleep, managing stress, eating well, moving our bodies.
Right. All of those things, they play such a huge role in our health and well-being.
A much bigger role than any supplement could ever play.
Absolutely. As we wrap up this deep dive, I keep coming back to this fundamental question.
What's that?
Like, what does it actually mean to be healthy? What does true wellness look like?
It's a big question.
It is. And it goes beyond just, avoiding disease or striving for physical perfection.
It's more about a holistic view of ourselves.
Right. Recognizing that our mind, body, and your spirit, they're all interconnected.
It's about, finding joy in movement, nourishing ourselves with good food.
Yeah, and finding a sense of peace and purpose in our lives.
Understanding that aging is a natural process.
Not something to be feared.
Accepting ourselves, with all our imperfections, but still striving to live each day to the fullest.
I think that's a really beautiful way to put it.
And a powerful message to end on.
It is. We hope this deep dive has given you some things to think about.
Maybe challenge some of your assumptions.
And most importantly, giving you the tools to be more proactive, more informed about your own health.
So keep exploring, keep asking those questions.
Keep learning.
Because ultimately, you are the expert on your own body.
Trust your intuition. Listen to your inner wisdom.
Make choices that align with your values and aspirations.
Because true health and well-being, they're not a destination. They're a journey.
A lifelong journey. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another exploration of the world of knowledge and ideas.